Bee and Puppycat is a cult classic animated series, with the full 2 seasons available on Netflix. However, it began its rocky beginnings as an animated web series, which could be found on YouTube. The Netflix series took the storyline of the original web series and compressed it into 3 episodes. The remainder of the 16 episodes were new storyline. This revamped Netflix version had the title Bee and Puppycat Lazy in Space. The primary creator is Natasha Allegri, who began working on the story as an animator for Adventure Time. This explains many of the fantastical elements within the show, as Adventure Time's animation style is notorious for having no loyalty to the laws of physics, which makes her art both cute and disturbing. Before it was picked up by Netflix, the episode, Little Fingers, won the award for Best Animated Series at the International Ottawa Film Festival in 2019. The original was released in 2013, but the Netflix version came out 9 years later. It was difficult to get the funding for more content after the original release, as the production company that Allegri originally affiliated with, Cartoon Hangover, was small and independent and needed outside funding. However, fan dedication to the series made Kickstarter history as the most money made by a female filmmaker on the crowdfunding website. They made $872,000 and had 18,000 backers. The reason it was such an expensive project is because of the quality that was put into it. They planned to traditionally animate each frame by hand. Frederator Studios, which was a production studio for Cartoon Hangover, began to feel financial stress and was failing as a company. As they began to fail, Fred Seibert stuck with Allegri and finished the project through Netflix, which picked the series up. The setting seems to go unnamed, the main setting being the island where Bee's apartment is. It is also unknown whether or not it takes place on Earth because, although they speak English, the temp jobs are often on different planets and the planet where they live is not specified. A secret which is revealed later about their island, though, is that it's actually a spaceship, which helps clarify why the name was never revealed. There's a few examples of the different planets, which are typically named for their form and function. There is Donut Planet, which is shaped like a donut and is the place they make donuts. There's Toilet Planet, which is quite literally a giant toilet. There's also the Temp Space Agency. This is basically a black void, inhabited by TempBot, who gives them wide-ranging assignments. Temp Space is where quite a few of Bee and Puppycat's exploits begin. In both setting and characters, Allegri indulges her imagination, and the logic of the show is typically just the absence of any. However, Netflix was wrestling with the show's creator to try to make a linear storyline, so it ends up feeling like a fever dream at some points rather than a whimsical experience or a planned-out plot. Many of the galaxy's rules seem to be regulated by the Temp Space Agency, as there's no other organized system of government which is shown. I think the thing that is most related to our world is probably that no one knows what's going on. Even the antagonists are a little confused or driven by a drive for vengeance, not a plan. The show's target audience is young adults, and that is exemplified by how every situation accentuates how each character operates without a clear direction. There's little structure. Most characters are unhappily grinding through every day of work, like the shopkeeper. These are the older characters. The younger characters are typically having a crisis of identity, like qazxsw, who gave up on boxing to pursue coding instead. In this way, the show makes a larger statement about life's purpose and chasing your dreams while there's still time. There are quite a few recurring characters. My favorite is Howl, who is part of the Wizard family. This is probably just because his voice actors come out on Gianni, though. The protagonist is Bee, who is an out-of-work 20-something. She has big, floofy hair and is secretly an android. It is unclear whether she is partially human and was in some way altered by her father, or if she was completely made from scratch. There is the possibility that her father didn't even make her, but simply took care of her. Her robotic nature is a big secret which is kept during the show from her friends. However, as with many things that build tension during the series, it never really plays out to the extent that it can be assumed it would have, because of its turbulent production and the lack of hope that the plot would ever have to make it beyond a web series. There's also Puppycat, the other half of the show's namesake. No one knows if he's a puppy or a cat, but that doesn't really matter, since he's actually a human outlaw who is transformed into the creature. He doesn't speak English. The Vocaloid program which was used for his voice really just makes differently pitched noises. However, they still manage to convey emotion through this technique. If you turn the subtitles on, every sound he makes is converted to dialogue, so there are whole conversations viewers who don't use subtitles may not understand. Cardamon is the landlord of the Wizard family as well as for Bee and Puppycat. He's also Violet's son, but since she fell into a deep sleep, he's had to act incredibly adult-like. He is often characterized by his extendable hammer, which he uses to fix things as a landlord, and Sticky. Sticky is a dog which Cardamon has dubbed a princess, and who gives him company while his mom is in a coma. There's an entertaining plotline in which Cardamon attempts to get Sticky to marry Puppycat. In the episode which won the Ottawa Film Festival, Littlefingers, Puppycat steals Bee's phone and plays Pretty Patrick Egg Adventure, spending her money on in-game purchases as she chases him around town to get her phone back. To earn back the money he spent, they work a temp job where the assignment is to open a giant can of soda. The creatures who requested it are the only two which live on their small planet. The main characteristic of their species is the episode's moniker, Little Fingers, because on the surface of the tendrils, which at first glance seem to be poorly drawn hands, are actually many small fingers. The characters humorously express their own disgust at the situation. They want the soda open because they experience the world through these little fingers and want to know what the drink feels like. However, their hands are so shaped that they can't pull the tab. This episode is not one-dimensional as this summary may make it seem. There are plenty of things which happen that keep the viewer on their toes. An example of this is when Tempbot falls in love with Bee's phone. She sends a love message in binary to all of Bee's contacts who try to connect with the phone. Unfortunately, it does not reciprocate, and Tempbot becomes withdrawn in later episodes. The show tries valiantly to break convention, but archetypal characters are still littered throughout, though veiled by a layer of oddities. Puppycat fits into the cookie-cutter of an outlaw, spitting in the face of society in his own special way, which is why he's punished and turned into an animal. Violet acts as a sort of sage, purposefully hiding away from the action as much as possible. When she gives in and shares her wisdom, though, the protagonist's problems almost immediately disappear. Symbolism appears as Bee ventures from her small island to the unfathomable depths of space. Her journey an essential part of maturing. She's very frightened by water, but she faces her fear as she nearly drowns in the last episode. As an android, water is probably the most dangerous thing for her, so finally being submerged in it and surviving helps to illustrate her growth. There are many repeated images, including the spinning top which Puppycat had when he was a kid. He played with it during class, which got him kicked out of the school. Then through magic, his toys transform into all the workings of a spaceship, and his top becomes the vessel for his and his crew's daring exploits through space. Eventually, he gets older and runs away from the spaceship as he tries to find himself again, while being an animal. When he comes around, though, he settles back down on his ship, which has become an island, content at last with his lot. There are countless species in Bee and Puppycat. Many are unnamed, but have traits and defining characteristics which help identify them during the show. The most noteworthy thing to take away from their presence is the effect it has of making the universe seem bigger. Some shows can feel stuffy, filled to the brim with bottle episodes and limited to the scope of what's possible within budget and reason. However, it's clear that with an animated show such as this, there are many opportunities present to make it feel like anything is possible, leaving the viewer to indulge their imagination rather than feeling confined. The overarching villain during the show is a group of warlocks who are chasing Puppycat through the universe. He's running away from them when he meets Bee. He never really tells her what's going on, but when they go on temp jobs, giant hands chase them, seemingly stretching through the sky. The few scenes which show the warlocks make it seem like this is simply a dull assignment they've been placed on, but whoever is giving them these orders is never revealed. The place which they inhabit is haunting in its simplicity, as they only stand on what looks like a tree in a black void. They don't really have such long arms, but the liquid in the pool makes it whatever it touches grow for some reason. Their scenes are always very psychedelic. One mythological allusion is in the show's first antagonist, Doublemouth, as she is affectionately dubbed by fans who still have yet to learn her name. She bears remarkable similarities to the Japanese monster, the Fudakuchi Onna. The monster is originally a human woman who starves herself. Out of necessity, the body creates a second mouth, which feeds itself twice that of what the woman would normally eat. As one can see from the appearance of Doublemouth, she is seemingly starving, just like the Japanese monster. One may also assume that she wasn't always this way. She tries to eat Bee and Puppycat, demonstrating her insatiable hunger. Avid viewers of the show have realized that the disturbing qualities of her voice originate from her second mouth saying everything she does backwards. Another mythological allusion is Violet, who is Cardamon's mother. She alludes to Sleeping Beauty, who, on top of being a Disney princess, is based in Norse myth. It's clear that they both assume similar positions as they sleep. They both have crowns, dresses, and full faces of makeup as they rest like the dead. While they sleep, the place around them becomes overgrown and unmanageable. For Violet, however, this is from her tears, which have magical properties. Whatever they touch turns into twisted psychedelic plants. Bee and Puppycat is, of course, not true mythology. The amount of storyline which is packed into its episodes makes it difficult to assign it to a Campbell function. However, though there are cosmological aspects, that is not the focus. We simply pay special attention to this world building because it is so different from our own. No, the two that the show seems to address the most are in the instruct category. Pedagogically, Bee shares many similarities to the viewer archetype that it was assumed would watch the show. She's a bit directionless, mid-20s, and though she's not necessarily skilled in the workforce, she has hidden potential. Bee was unable to hold down a job even when her employer was a very good friend who treated her like family. Once Puppycat comes into her life, they help each other. It's a bit of a worn-out lesson, but through the power of friendship, they're able to both advance their understandings of the universe surrounding them. Puppycat helps Bee get the money for the cost of life by going with her on temp jobs. Bee helps Puppycat escape and finally defeat the warlocks that are chasing him through space. The show, to a lesser extent, also serves a sociological function. The mayor, Pretty Patrick, exemplifies good leadership. He is constantly in the public eye in a positive way. He has a TV show, Pretty Patrick Lunchtime, that both Bee and Puppycat are obsessed with, much like politicians in the early 20th century, who made sure they were a daily part of their citizens' lives through radio. Pretty Patrick is skilled at swaying even non-politically motivated people like Bee to support his run in office. Though he is a minor character, many characters in the show are similarly utopian, perhaps to highlight how Bee fumbles through life. This hyperbole functions to help viewers of the show feel seen, as it's common to feel like everyone knows what they're doing and you don't. Although pedagogically, the advice given by the show for this problem is to surround yourself with a good circle of friends and support each other. When viewed from a sociological perspective, Bee is truly an undesirable outcast. This is further shown by her android nature, which, when revealed to other characters, is often met with some degree of disgust and fear. She hides away because of this. On an individual level, this is merely meant to be relatable to viewers, to make them feel like somewhere else out there someone understands how it feels to simply exist imperfectly. However, the steps taken by Allegri to make her feel so relatable by being an outcast who can never do anything right can be interpreted as a cautionary tale if viewed on a larger social scale. Obviously, this is not what Allegri intended to be understood from her protagonist. Nevertheless, if we were analyzing it centuries from now, as myths are analyzed today, we would likely see Bee as some sort of caution against not fitting the standards of society. In a modern world, these standards could be understood as don't make waves, keep your head down, work hard, and ignore burnout. Bee does none of these things and is excluded from society for it. The target audience is young people. All genders can enjoy this show, and viewership is not typically divided down those borders. Bee and her friends are very relatable to young adults in their directionless nature. The most popular form that Bee and Puppycat takes is the Netflix show, but was originally a YouTube series. After that, comic books were attempted and failed after a few editions. Fan art is a must-have with any good mythopoeia, and Bee and Puppycat is no exception. There is unsubstantiated hope within the fanbase for more Bee and Puppycat content, but it's likely the only further media will be fan-made. Thank you.